The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Queen HFY of the Vorten Empire made her entrance. Her crystalline exoskeleton refracted the chamber's light into 1,000 deadly rainbows, each facet sharp enough to cut through reinforced steel. The air itself seemed to freeze around her, a natural defensive mechanism that had ended more assassination attempts than her guards ever had. River Chen stood in the corner, tablet in hand, trying very hard not to exist too loudly. As the newest human translator assigned to the council, she'd been warned about Queen Drax. The Vorten ruler had personally dissolved 3 star systems into their component atoms, conquered 47 worlds without losing a single battle, and once stared down a black hole until it had the decency to collapse quietly. The human will approach. Drax's voice came out as a series of clicks, whistles, and what sounded like ice cracking over a frozen lake. The translation matrix embedded in River's neural implant converted it to flawless English. Though it couldn't quite capture the underlying menace, River stepped forward, her heart hammering against her ribs. Every ambassador in the room had suddenly found something fascinating about their shoes. "Your Majesty," River said, bowing exactly 45 degrees as protocol demanded. HFY studied her with compound eyes that contained more colors than human vision could properly process. Then, impossibly, one of those razor-sharp mandibles twitched upward. In the universal language of facial expressions across 100 species, River recognized it immediately. The most feared being in the known galaxy had just winked at her. "You will be my personal translator," Drax announced. "All others are dismissed." The room emptied faster than a space station with a hull breach. 3 days later, River found herself aboard the Vorten flagship, trying to understand why she was still alive. Drax had requested her presence at every meal, every council meeting, every single diplomatic function. But here was the thing nobody had mentioned about the terrifying Queen of the Vortens. She was absolutely terrible at speaking galactic standard. River human. Drax clicked as they stood on the observation deck, watching a nebula paint the void in impossible colors. "Explain again this concept of puns." River bit back a smile. "Well, Your Majesty, it's when you use words that sound alike, but have different meanings to create humor. Like when Ambassador Krell said he would see me around, and I responded that his species' visual organs make that geometrically impossible. That's actually kind of perfect." HFY's mandibles did that upward twitch again. The ambassador cried. His tears made an unpleasant hissing sound on my flooring. "Maybe we should work on delivery." River suggested carefully. The truth, she'd discovered, was that Queen Drax had conquered half the galaxy partially because every attempt at diplomacy had gone catastrophically wrong. The Vorten language was notoriously difficult to translate. It relied heavily on pheromones, temperature shifts, and crystalline resonance that most species simply couldn't detect. When Drax tried to say "I come in peace," most translation matrices rendered it as "I come in pieces," which, given her reputation, usually ended negotiations before they began. "Your species fascinates me," Drax said, turning her massive form to face River, up close. The Queen was even more intimidating, easily 3 meters tall with limbs that could punch through a starship hull. "You humans are so soft, so fragile, yet you persist." "We're stubborn," River agreed. "You are also the only species whose language my implant translates with complete accuracy." HFY's voice carried what River had learned to recognize as frustration. "Do you know why I needed to conquer so many worlds?" River shook her head. "Because I kept trying to ask them nicely, and they kept thinking I was threatening to eat their younglings." The Queen's exoskeleton shifted through several colors that River's implant tagged as deep embarrassment. "I am not a monster, River human. I simply speak monster." Apparently, understanding crashed over River like a wave. "You're not feared because you're cruel. You're feared because nobody can understand you, except humans." Drax's mandibles twitched again. "Your species evolved communication through so many channels: verbal, written, tonal, facial, gestural. Your translation technology accounts for context and intent, not just words. When I met you in the council chamber, I made a gesture of friendship. You recognized it." "The wink," River said softly. "The wink," Drax confirmed. 47 species. In that room, and only the human knew I was being playful rather than threatening. Over the following weeks, River became more than a translator. She became a bridge. With her help, Jrax began renegotiating treaties, turning conquests into alliances, transforming an empire built on fear into a coalition built on understanding. The breakthrough came during a tense negotiation with the Beni Collective, a species of hive-minded mathematicians who communicated primarily through equations. Their spokesperson, a unit designated Beni Prime, had initially refused to even enter the same room as ZHRX. Tell him, ZHRAX clicked carefully, that I am sorry, that I wish to solve for peace, not conflict. River translated, but she also added something, a mathematical metaphor, a formula for cooperation that she'd learned from studying the collective's cultural database. Beni Prime's optical sensors flickered with what River hoped was surprise rather than offense. The Queen speaks our language. Beni Prime's synthesized voice carried genuine wonder. She's learning, River said. With human help, Beni Prime calculated for exactly 7 seconds. Then perhaps we should learn hers. That night, as River reviewed the day's successful negotiations, ZHRX found her on the observation deck. Thank you, River Human, the Queen said, her voice carrying warmth that no translation matrix could have properly conveyed 3 months ago. You have given me something I thought impossible. What's that, Your Majesty? The ability to tell the galaxy that I come in peace and have them actually believe me. River smiled. You know, you could probably learn to do this yourself. You don't really need me. Jrax's mandibles twitched upward, and this time River was certain it was affection. Perhaps, but having a human friend who understands both my words and my intentions, that is worth more than 50 conquered systems. As the stars wheeled overhead and the Vorten flagship charted course for another diplomatic mission, River reflected on the strange truth of the universe. Sometimes the most powerful weapon wasn't a laser or a warship or even an army. Sometimes it was simply the ability to understand and be understood. And maybe, just maybe, it helped if you could recognize a friendly wink when you saw one.